we had DJ Snake, who had Taki Taki, but then right, I think after we started Interscope Miami, Loco Contigo with Balvin, and then I had Selena Gomez, who has her Mexican roots, who wanted to do her Latin project, and we had Kali Uchis, obviously from Colombia, who wanted to do her project, and we had one of the biggest hits of her career.
Good morning, buenos días. This panel will be mostly in English, so if anyone needs traducción, in the back, traducción simultánea, fabulous, pero veo que todo el mundo está perfect. So let me introduce our two panelists. This is a very, I don't want to say once in a lifetime, because I hope we do it again, but it is definitely the first time that we have, first of all, our Latin Executive of the Year, Nir Seroussi. He's the president of Interscope Capital Miami, and that, of course, is the home to artists like Karol G, Xavi, Iván Cornejo, J Balvin, among many others. And next to him is the chairman and CEO of Interscope Capital, Todo, Mr. John Janick. Entonces, cada vez que ustedes leen de, I don't want to mess up my labels, John, but Billie Eilish, she's yours. Selena Gomez, she's yours. Lady Gaga?
Yes.
She's yours. So he has a small developing roster of artists. But what's special about Interscope is that, well, all major labels have Latin labels. Interscope has a Latin Miami division. So Interscope doesn't call it Interscope Latin, you call it Interscope Capital Latin. Why is that?
Well, we call it Interscope Capital Miami.
I mean Miami.
Yeah.
Perdón.
So I've had a long journey in the business. I've been around for 30 years, and I've seen the evolution of the market, of the artist, and obviously at some point we've officially become global, and I felt that, we both felt that, calling something Latin, I mean, we don't have Interscope Urban or Interscope Pop. I mean, once you put a label to it, it just almost like gives it a ceiling or makes you like a second-class citizen or something. So the whole point is about it being inclusive, right? So if you're signed to the label, you're not signed to, Latin. You're signed to Interscope or Capital. So it was about inclusion and about empowering and making sure that our community gets a seat at the table with the Lady Gagas and the Billies and have the same resources and same tools. And so I forget it, not Latin. So that's really the spirit of it. I mean, it is a statement. We did it on purpose.
Yeah, I think the importance of understanding a certain genre but not putting it in a box. And fortunately, I was lucky enough to meet Nir about 6 years ago. So us being able to have the expertise here in Miami, but plugging artists into the global infrastructure, making sure we get the foundation correct, but not limiting on what an artist or genre can do.
So, John, what did you want to do? So you met, well, let me backtrack a little bit. You're the president, you're the CEO, chairman of a major, of a very important label. But you started as an entrepreneur. When you were in college, you created a label that became very successful. And so now you're heading Interscope, and you say, okay, I want to develop Latin music within Interscope. Did you know Nir?
I didn't know Nir yet, but I think starting off, being in college, not having any connection to the music business, and really not having any money, and trying to figure out how I was going to be able to build my company. I was just passionate about music. So I've always wanted to partner with artists and figure out how I was going to help them further their career. And I never wanted there to be a ceiling on what they did. Everything I did was about trying to move culture and support the artist. So I think moving into the Latin space, and ultimately why I ended up going to Interscope, is Interscope was very entrepreneurial. It was always about finding artists that were doing something different and not limiting what you could do, thinking outside the box. And I think in the Latin space, you know, Interscope was early, working with Daddy Yankee back in the day. And we were seeing so many great artists coming out of the Latin space. And, you know, one in particular was Bad Bunny, who we were pursuing and going after Noah. And Noah said such nice things about Nir last night, but we were right on the edge of trying to get it, but Nir continued to lock him down, and with Noah and his relationship with him. And then I kept bumping into hearing Nir's name wherever we would go. And it was from such a positive place of someone who was supportive of the music, entrepreneurship, building things, and thinking outside of the box. So I was shocked when he left his prior employment. And I literally heard he'd left, cold called him within 2 or 3 days, I think, of when he left, and flew him out to LA within the week. And then we did a deal within a week. And it was really him just coming out and brainstorming over a late night dinner of saying, we're gonna build this from the ground up and be very entrepreneurial and think outside of the box and build something that's great for Latin artists, and not limiting and thinking outside of the box and doing things differently, which is, again, how I built my label when I was in high school going into college. It's how I still treat Interscope and Capitol now to this day. My vision was always to be able to dream big and be able to go after and execute on anything that you think is great for the artist. So being able to do that in Miami with Nir has been incredible.
Do you guys think this would have been possible a decade ago, for example?
At where, sorry?
Would it have been possible to create this concept of a division a decade ago with Latin music?
It's probably a better question for you.
I mean, look, I honestly, maybe, but things happen for a reason. I really feel that John was the best partner, and you know, the timing happened to be 6 years ago. And I'm saying this like being honest, and not because John is sitting next to me, but if I had to, you know, sit down and write down who would I could do this with, I mean, it would, it's like John would be the one and only. So I think, you know, if 10 years ago we would have crossed paths, maybe, but it happened 6 years ago. But this is just, it's just so unique. Like I said last night in my speech, I mean, you know, John restored my faith in these big companies. Seeing somebody so passionate and so entrepreneurial and also willing to give us a playground. It's like, listen, you know, I respect the culture. I know, you know, you guys have your own code. I mean, and within our world, there's different subcultures. So having, you know, a powerful executive like John who says, listen, you know, you guys build it, but then at the same time, being able to have access to John's wealth of information. I mean, listen, when you have Karol G, and you know, you get to put her on the same, you know, the same table as the Billies and the Gagas, and you know, turning to John and say, we want to do a plan for Karol like you do for Billy, and you know, it's all in house. So it's like, honestly, you know, it happened when it meant to happen, and this to me is like the only way it could have happened.
Yeah, I think a decade may have been easier. Maybe prior to that's tough. You know, I came to Interscope because I thought the opportunity to shape what the music business would be for the future was an amazing opportunity. But I was probably 33 at the time, and it was a big leap of faith leaving the company that I started from my dorm room. My wife had just given birth to our first child, and moving from New York to LA and not knowing what the music business, how I would be treated going into this big company. At the time, Jimmy Iovine was still the chairman of the company, bringing me in to ultimately succeed him because he was smart thinking about succession. And within 2 years, he left after selling Beats, and still to this day is very supportive. But being in the situation that we're in, and Lucien Grange, who's the chairman of UMG, being supportive of us being able to do this, I think all the pieces falling into the right place of, we could have just been entrepreneurial, created something, but plugging into the major label system and getting the right support and having the backing and the resources was definitely everything coming together at the right time, because nobody else has this infrastructure. That you actually have, our Miami division, which is obviously hyper-focused on Latin artists, but us in LA, and the ability to plug in and it being so seamless between the two is very unique.
Yeah, I love that, and I wanted to ask you in practical terms, what does that mean for an artist? So Nir, you just gave the example of Karol, actually. You're making all these plans, but let's do somebody who is not Karol, who's a more developing artist, like a Xavi, for example, who is a definite artist, on the rise. He won our Best New Artist at Billboard a couple of years ago. How does someone like that plug into this ecosystem, let's call it like this?
So Xavi, or someone like Ivan, for example.
Ivan Cornejo.
Ivan Cornejo is a perfect example. Ivan is an artist that truly, culturally lives on both sides. And you see how we've integrated him into our team, or the team we built around him. It's literally a mix of the Miami team, the LA team. Aesthetically, when it comes to the creative and visuals, he has references that are a lot more American. So he has the creative team from the LA office. So it's look, the way I see it is we build a menu that is tailored around the artist's needs. If we sign artists all over the Latin region, so if we have an artist that we sign in Argentina that has not broken in Argentina, so you gotta take it one step at a time. So you start by being hyper focused on Argentina, then you expand into the Latin region, and listen. And when when the artist gets to a point where he needs more, obviously in the case of Balvin or Karol, then it's all there. That's the point. It's like I spend most of my day being a coach, right? So I like to keep it real with the artist and tell them, listen, this is where you're now. You can't skip steps, because if you don't build the foundation, then you're not going to have a lasting career. So the baby steps means you don't need the full menu, because it's you'd be skipping a step. So we basically have, just everything available. And by the way, it's never a perfect science. We strive to, we think every day, what else do we need to have? What tools do we need to provide our artists so they can be bigger and better? So, that's what it is, just shaping your business around the artist's needs, not the other way around. And by the way, I think what worked about, and what's unique about what John and I have built, is that it wasn't transactional. It really came from passion. And caring, of course, I'm passionate about our Latin community. And John is passionate about culture, about moving culture. And, it's the same way you're doing stuff with Korea. It comes in, that passion can translate to any part of the world, or any type of genre, as long as the fundamentals are there, right? It's about something that's cultural, that is, that's cool, that can translate over bigger audiences, and being there to kind of trace the path. Doesn't matter, Latin, Korean. So again, that's what I think is really unique. This wasn't just jumping on a bandwagon. It was truly, it comes from the entrepreneurial and passion place.
Yeah, I think everything we do every day is about being in service of the artist. So finding great artists with visions that we believe in, and the artists trust us to be able to be their partners and help them build every aspect of their career. And same with our entrepreneurial partners, whether it's with a label or with a manager. So someone like Ivan coming in, seeing that he was selling tickets, the kids at the shows singing every word to every song, but seeing the passion there of saying, we need to think outside the box. We need to think the way we think with some of our artists on the Interscope side, and think about the D2C play. What are we doing with the merchandise? What are we doing with the sync and all those other pieces? And not just chasing the business that's right in front of you. So,
can you give us a concrete example?
Yeah, like we talk a lot about D2C, where I'm not sure, we in the Latin space in Miami, we're tackling everything we could do there. So on Ivan, we put up his album in the same way we would a Billy or an Olivia or any of those artists, where we were pre-selling and selling directly to the fan. We sold, I think, over 10,000 albums just through D2C first week, which he had never done in the past, right? And I think we could have sold a lot more. We're going to be much more prepared for the next go around, but also building that engagement with the fans, seeing at the shows that all these kids are showing up and so passionate, is making sure that Ivan has the direct connection and knows who those fans are and can sell his merchandise, can sell his albums, his music. So that was I think a big game changer, and gets us prepared for what comes next with him as well as others.
That's a great example. And conversely, John, how has your side, let's call it the non-Miami side, so we're not going to use the word Latin, benefited from having this Miami point of view? Is there anything that you've learned, like about taking those artists that maybe had not been to Latin America, or I don't know?
Yeah, I mean, we saw it right away, because I had, right when we did the deal to start Interscope Miami, I had just signed myself, because he came into the room tiny, because he just came in and played music, and I thought he was an amazing producer. We had DJ Snake, who had Taki Taki, but then right, I think after we started Interscope Miami, Loco Contigo with Balvin, and then I had Selena Gomez, who has her Mexican roots, who wanted to do her Latin project, and we had Cali Uchis, obviously from Colombia, who wanted to do her project, and we had one of the biggest hits of her career on that project. So the ability of having those artists that were going to go down those roads and do those things anyways, but now, we have the expertise in Miami that we were able to benefit of going both ways, of being able to take the artists that were signed to Interscope out of LA that had some Latin roots, or signed brand new artists. I think we were saying yesterday at a celebratory New Year's lunch, as well as it being a big birthday for him this weekend, is happy birthday.
It's near awareness month.
Exactly. Is signing a great developing artist in Kea, and continue to move through it, and then being able to sign big artists like Karol and Balvin. So it's all the pieces are coming together. Anything great in the music business, unless you're lucky, usually takes 3, 4, 5 years. So it's really been building piece by piece over the long term.
I think that's so important to say, because we're all getting used to these, entre comillas, quick successes, and it really is not like that. But let's talk about the signings, because what I perceive from the outside is that at the beginning, Nir, you were signing artists who were either developing or, I mean, it's not like you tried to poach stars from anywhere when you started at all. So what was the strategy? And what is the strategy now? Because now you have Carol, Balvin, which, you know, they finished their contracts and then they went to you. So what is the strategy? Did you want to like build that foundation before you got any superstars into the roster?
So after the fact, I can fool you guys and say I'm a genius because I had this all planned out 6 years ago, but it's just not true. Fortunately, having John, and by the way, the resilience, the tolerance of this, and it's going to take a few years to build, which he has more than me. Like there'd be moments where I'm like I'm really getting anxious because, you know, once you've tasted success, you want to feel it again. Quickly. But so the first phase was just like an artist. We're just exploring. Let's also bring in context as far as like the time. This was like 2019, getting into the pandemic. I think 2019, and I saw this happening, I kind of predicted that a lot was going to change. I didn't know we'd had TikTok, but also musically what was going to happen from a very clear era of reggaeton and urban morphing into where we are today, which is a beautiful world. But it feels like mainstream is now disappearing, and you have amazing artists coming from the left. But going back, in 2019, when things started moving with the pandemic, yeah, we were trying to find our own path. And you always end up going back to basics, and you hold on a second. It's not about, you know, chasing a viral song on TikTok and getting into a bidding war with everybody else and trying to have the next big, you know, like streaming song. It's developing. It's building the foundation for artists, and like we did with Xavi. 16 years old, sitting at a Starbucks, just looking at each other. I'm like, you're talented. And we're just coming out of the pandemic. And I'm telling him, you're different and it's gonna take a minute, but I rather us gamble on that and you staying true to yourself. And what happens most of the time, because when you chase the center moves. So you just stick to what you're doing, and if you're good, and you know, with time, the center comes to you. So the conclusion has been going back to the basics of artist development. And listen, artist developments apply even to Balvin. You know, you ask him, how do you feel today? You feel like a new artist. And our conversations, our process, as if he's a new artist. When it comes to the challenges and what's next, I mean, of course, he's at a different level, but really, the strategy is we invest in the vision of artists who want to be here for a long time, and it takes time. You can't skip steps. And a lot has to happen with the individual. That's, I mean, one of our, you know, when you bet on an artist, you bet on a person. And the person, when they're young, also haven't evolved yet. They haven't grown into themselves. So a lot can happen. So, you know, but that's the beauty of this, because every now and then, everything just clicks, and, you know, like happened with Xavi. We had 3 years later, had La Diabla.
Yeah, I think it's Nir said a couple important things. One, we treat the big artist with the same energy we would treat a developing artist, in the sense of people are fickle. They'll move on easily. So how do we have the same energy going into a Balvin or a Karol as we would as a Xavi or an Ivan? I think it's also, because you'd asked the question earlier, you know, kind of the cross between Interscope in LA and Capitol in LA, as well as Interscope Capitol Miami. Javi's an interesting one because you've talked about it before. It was actually spotted by the A&R team in LA and then sent to Nir. Nir and Jose and team have a better feel for what it was, but it was spotting it, sending it, and great teamwork.
Yes, that's actually very encouraging to hear.
I mean, to be very technical, and it was Emerson, was nothing to do with our world, sent me a random video, not because there were crazy stats. It came across his dashboard. He's like, oh, I thought it was cool. That was it. And I saw something that just, I don't know, it just clicked, and I looked for him. It took me like a month because the kid wouldn't return my DMs, and flew him down. 5 minutes into the conversation, I'm like, okay, like, this is something very special. That was it. It was very, very, very intuitive. But that it came from, again, it's like, things can come from everywhere. It came from an A&R sitting in LA, just, having something come across his dashboard.
Yeah, one other thing, because you mentioned the long term of it and not poaching artists or any of those pieces. When I came into Interscope to start, because Capitol only started, I started overseeing that about 2 years ago, was I had an overarching goal for the entire company, which was be a destination for people to work and for artists to sign. And I've used it a lot, and to do that, it's made up of hundreds of things that you have to do. You have to be a great creative place, supportive of artists, a great culture where people want to work. You have to think about, hitting your numbers so people get bonus, which that's not the more creative thing, but you have to think about all those things where people are going to be happy. So I think taking that same approach into what we did in Miami and building it piece by piece, brick by brick, and having some of those things on the earlier side, like a Selena and a Cali and some of the Snake stuff and Tiny stuff, and then signing great young artists and developing them to where they break, like a Xavi, and then attracting some of the bigger artists that are coming out of deal and showing that it's a great home for artists. And I think that's what's important in the long term, to build something that's going to last.
So who is who in this relationship? Because I have read that John is actually very methodical and analytical. I don't know if that's true because I don't know you enough. But if that's the case, who are you and who is Nir? Because I thought it was interesting that Nir was saying that John would say, paciencia, don't worry, don't get impatient. Is that what happens here? Nir is like, this isn't happening. And you're like,
I think in this business, it's rare that there's people that are left brain, right brain, that are creative and can be very business oriented. I had to be that because, again, I was a kid who grew up in a small town who had no connection to the music business, and
you had to do everything. And John, sorry to interrupt, but John, for those who don't know, his college room was at University of Florida.
Right.
So, para todos los que están mandando a los hijos a University of Florida, there you are.
Yeah, but I had no connection to it. It was just passion. And, so I had to develop both sides of it. Jimmy Iovine, who was the founder of Interscope, was the same, which is why I was connected. Nir is that also. Is very creative, but understands the deals and the business, and you're able to mesh those things the right way. So I always say, and I think Nir is the same, is that I'm the most impatient, patient person. So I know things take a long time. Great things don't happen overnight. You have to make the right moves for the artist, and you have to think about the totality of everything you're building. So it's this weird thing that I don't think you can really explain. It's like, yes, I understand analytics, and I always say I am personally a gut person. I know what moves me. I've done it for a long time. I feel like taste is important. There's no shortcuts, and I think Nir is the same way. But I think why it works is because we're always pushing to be better. Never, unfortunately, which I think may be a slight character flaw, but very good for the business, is never happy with where you're at and always want to do better and do more for the artist and what we're building.
So what is coming up? that we should know about? Nir, you've signed a lot of homegrown música mexicana artists like Xavi, like Ivan, like this girl, Judeline. So what can you tell us about any of these artists? I heard some of them are recording in English. Is there anything you can share today?
So I lied to you, I can't share that. Only you can know.
Really, you can't?
No, I can't.
De verdad?
I know
I can't coerce you here on stage?
You love to just have the gossip. No, I can't. It's only for you for now. For you to know for now. No, but as I was saying, there's so many cool things that are not left. I mean, they start from the left. Like Rosalia started from the left. Benito started from the left. Judeline, an amazing artist from Spain. Bad Gal, who's already has a career.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that Bad Gal is now yours. Yeah.
I mean, she's poised to be a superstar. Sara Malacara from Argentina, I'm obsessed with. MH31 from Argentina. Tobica from Argentina. We have just so many. We've got on the regional Mexican side also, we're developing more things. I mean, we work very closely with Nathaniel Cano's label.
So a lot of artists also from overseas. That must be kind of really interesting for you as well, John, because it's like a whole new stream of A&R that you've tapped into.
100%. Yeah, they've been very great about finding what we think are the best upcoming talent in many markets around the world.
So any release that we should be super excited about right now, Nir?
This is a part where Leila is asking the questions that she knows she's not going to get the answers to.
Give me something. Give us something that we can put on the headline. Nir signs. And I have no idea, by the way.
Drawing a flag. No, I mean, look, we're going to have a definitely very busy, our artists are going to have a busy year coming up. I mean, everybody's coming up with albums. I don't know if I can give you any specifics, but...
Why don't you both, before I let you go, each of you tell me something upcoming that you're excited about, without divulging any secrets, but something that you've been waiting for this music, it's now coming, and you're really gung-ho about this.
It's hard because that's like picking your favorite child, right? Like if you say one that's coming up, I will say to Nir's point, across everything that I oversee, so many of our artists have great music coming out, and it's going to be a crazy year next year. And specifically, I'll let you speak to the Latin side, but I feel the same on the in Miami. There's all the artists, pretty much every artist that we're working with should have something coming next year.
Yeah. I mean, Javi's working on an album. Ivan is working on an album. Yeah, I mean, Bad Gal is going to have an album early next year. So, it's going to be busy. Yeah.
And last question. Is there a particular DNA you're looking for in an artist? Is there, I know it's a very eclectic roster, but is there a quality that you definitely look for in an artist that you really need to check a certain box where you say, I love all of this about this artist, but they need this last element for me to take the plunge?
Yeah, for me, there's a handful of things, but I think the key thing is that the artist has vision, that they know who they are and what they want to do, and they're determined to do it. Now, I always say it could be an artist that's already kind of gone through the ringer and knows it right there, but I think even on a younger artist or early, even if it's not fully defined, you can get the germ of it out of them and understand that they're that artist. Because what we always talk about is not great at manufacturing things. We want artists that we're going to be their partners, and we're there to serve them. At the beginning of it, you said these artists are yours. I guess we are theirs. I always say, they are our boss at the end of the day. we want to be there to help them achieve everything they want to do in their career. And it's always, for me, kind of that tasteful art meets commerce and making an artist as big as possible. And we try to understand that. Is that what they want at the end of the day when they come in the door? And, only partner if everything aligns the right way.
Anything you want to add, Nir?
I'll answer it backwards. The undeniable factor that comes once in a blue moon, and I felt it when I met, again, it's usually with artists that are starting out, because when there's already a name, then there's numbers, it's like you've already been exposed to that individual. But when I met Xavi, when I met Jude Line, there's this magic. And it's an intangible thing that I can't explain it, but it's like, don't talk to me about numbers. I just know that if you stay on the path, the world will follow.
It's gonna work.
Yeah.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias.
Thank you.